Have you ever stopped to think about where your habits, your gut reactions, even your emotional triggers really come from? Well, it turns out that things like love and discipline, they aren't just things that happen to us. They're actually legacies. They're passed down, generation after generation. And today, we're going to dig into how these incredibly powerful forces create cycles that don't just shape our families, but our entire world.
And let's kick things off with a huge idea. You know, we tend to think of love as this nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, a bonus if you can get it. But the science is pretty clear on this. Love is a biological necessity. It's right up there with food and air as a fundamental requirement for us to survive and flourish. Now, this isn't just some poetic idea. It's the bedrock for everything we're about to talk about, and whether it's there or not has massive consequences.
And that leads us right to the heart of this whole thing, the intergenerational cycle. Basically, it's how behaviors and emotional patterns get passed down from parents to their kids. But here's the kicker. This can go one of two ways. It can be a virtuous cycle, building strength and growth with each generation. Or it can be a harmful one, a self-perpetuating cycle of damage. So let's start by looking at what happens when things go wrong.
We call this the downward spiral. It's a legacy of deficit, really. It's what happens when a lack of love and genuine discipline creates this negative feedback loop that just cascades from one generation to the next, often getting worse along the way.
So how does this actually work? Well, you can think of it like a chain reaction in 3 steps. It all starts with parents who, maybe because they never got enough love or guidance themselves, they just don't have the tools in their toolkit to provide it. It's not a choice, it's a deficit. From there, that harm, those gaps, get passed on unintentionally to their children. And so the next generation starts out already at a disadvantage, which makes it incredibly likely that they'll just continue the same cycle.
And you gotta understand, this isn't just some private family problem. When this cycle gets repeated in thousands or millions of families, it ripples out. It has massive consequences for all of us. You can see its fingerprints everywhere, in rising rates of anxiety and depression, in the epidemic of loneliness we're seeing, even in cycles of violence and addiction. It chips away at the very social trust that holds our communities together.
And this is a really crucial point. We're not talking about bad people here. We're talking about people who are products of environments that frankly failed them. They just never got the essential ingredients they needed to develop in a healthy way. And really getting that's the first step towards having some empathy and, figuring out a solution.
Which, thankfully, brings us to the hopeful part of this whole story. We can rebuild. We can absolutely lay a new foundation where people can flourish. But to do that, we have to get really clear on what those core building blocks actually are.
So here it is, the million-dollar question, right? If we know what causes this downward spiral, what in the world does it take to reverse it? How do we consciously choose to break the cycle and build a better, more resilient future for the generations that are going to come after us?
Okay, the first piece of the puzzle is getting this distinction. There's a huge difference between punishment and discipline. Punishment, that's all about control, retribution, making someone pay for a mistake. It usually just creates fear and resentment. But discipline, that's something else entirely. It's actually an act of love. It's about teaching, about guidance. It provides that security and structure that kids desperately need to learn things like self-control and respect.
And what about love? Again, we're not just talking about a feeling. We're talking about a series of actions. Love is what you do. It's consistent caregiving. It's unconditional kindness. It's showing forgiveness. It's making sacrifices. It's communicating openly. These aren't just random nice behaviors. These are the tangible things that, together, build the absolute bedrock of a secure emotional foundation.
So let's flip the script. Let's look at the other path. Because when you combine that kind of active love with healthy discipline, you kickstart something amazing, an upward spiral, a positive, self-reinforcing legacy of real growth.
So remember that negative chain reaction? Well, this is the mirror image, but with these incredible compounding benefits. The first generation provides what you might call relational nutrients, that blend of love and structure. This allows their kids to grow into emotionally secure adults, who are then way better equipped to have healthy relationships and to be effective parents themselves. And notice, the benefit doesn't just stop there. It multiplies. Each generation literally builds on the last, creating this powerful momentum towards a society with more stability, more resilience, and more compassion.
And this whole virtuous cycle, it's what allows us to move beyond just fixing problems or just getting by. It frees us up, collectively, to aim for a much higher goal, creating a world where people can actually, truly thrive.
And check this out, because this chart really puts it all into perspective. Think about your year. A massive chunk of it, over 6,000 hours, is just spent on, well, staying alive. Eating, sleeping, basic maintenance. Now, every ounce of energy we have to spend dealing with the fallout from those negative cycles gets stolen directly from that much smaller, much more precious slice, the time we actually have to flourish.
So what do we do with that precious time? That time for flourishing? Well, we invest it in the 3 pillars of a meaningful life. We use it to build strong relationships for support and belonging. We dedicate it to self-improvement to boost our own resilience and confidence. And we make sure to protect time for leisure, for rest, for creativity, for fun. And the thing is, these aren't just separate boxes to check. They're all deeply interconnected parts of a thriving life.
So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one simple, powerful idea. Love and discipline. They aren't just nice family values. They are the fundamental intergenerational building blocks that determine whether we're just surviving or if we are truly thriving, both as individuals and as a whole society.
And that leaves us with one final, powerful question to think about. Because look, every single one of us is part of this story, whether as a child, a parent, a friend, a neighbor. So this question isn't theoretical at all. It's deeply personal. Which legacy are you building?